Hey to all metal maniacs and welcome to another episode on Iron Horde channel. Continuing on the series of midweek videos relating to cultural aspects within heavy metal, this week I have decided to speak about an issue which seems to divide the subculture and the arts world in general. That is, should the artistic production of a specific individual be separated from his or her actions or behavior both within and outside of the music scene. Obviously, in this video I will be focusing on the heavy metal world, but it is a frame of mind which can be transposed even to other music and artistic spheres. So as usual, prepare that pint of beer or whiskey or rum, whatever is your drinking pleasure, and let's go. Welcome back and thanks for joining us again for this video. If you're new here, the aim of this channel is to review albums and festivals, suggest bands, delve in the cultural aspect of heavy metal in general and more. So if you're interested in this content, please consider subscribing and supporting this channel by sharing and liking and helping us basically to get the word out there in the heavy metal world. Now, I have to admit that the subject has long been on my mind and I have found myself having different thoughts on it throughout the years. And even whilst speaking about it today, I still don't feel 100% convinced, as what I'm saying today might be different from what my idea will be or might be in 2, 5 or 10 years time. This because I think it is a very personal ideology, so to speak, and more than any other subject there is no right or wrong. Quite a few years back I remember watching a series about the famous painter Caravaggio. Now, for those of you who don't know, Caravaggio had a very close relationship to Malta because at one point he was ordained as a Knight of Malta, and he also made his only signed painting, and the biggest ever he made it for the Knights of Malta, and it's still in display in Valletta's Cathedral. Something which I didn't know at the time was that the real reason for him to become a knight was to receive a pardon from the Pope, because he had actually killed a person back in Rome and was on the run. And the Knights of Malta were so respected in the Catholic world for their heroics against the Ottoman Empire that it was much more easy for them to receive a pardon in situations like the one Caravaggio was in. Actually, it seems that he was quite the troublemaker and had various issues with the law. At that point in time, I remember asking myself, knowing now that he had killed someone, should I keep promoting his work with foreign friends whenever they were planning or they were actually in Malta? Should I still view him with the admiration I had before? At the time, the answer was sure, he killed a person 400 years ago. Life was different back then. You had to, in most occasions, physically fight to stay alive, but the art will remain there forever and its beauty will never fade. This was one of the very first situations I had which relates to the subject of today. Now let's bring back the focus on the music world, because if I had to grab the whole artistic world would stay here for a whole week. There have been plenty of issues relating to musicians and robberies, indecent assaults, domestic violence and other law-defying situations, ranging from Johnny Cash, Chuck Berry, Jim Morrison, Bob Dylan, Sid Vicious, etc. And obviously the metal world, with its fair share of rebellion and things, has also had its own unpleasant situations. Probably the most notorious is the murder of Euronymous of Mayhem by Varg Vikernes, also the one involving Faust of Emperor and John Neudvait of Dissection, or when Gal, then of Gorgoroth, imprisoned a home intruder and tortured him for 6 hours. Or lesser known bands such as the band The Plague of Gentlemen, when Steve McMillan, who was arrested on child molestation charges, who was later sentenced for indecent exposure but not rape. Similar situation with regards to the band Inquisition and the mastermind behind it, Dagon, accused of withholding child pornography material, or when Bobby Liebling of Pentagram was accused of beating his own mother. Needless to say, all very serious accusations. And the latest one being the John Schaefer saga, main man behind Ice Dirt and affiliated with the far-right Oath Keepers militia. He was photographed among those who stormed the US Capitol building last January. I'm sure most of you know about this. There are more situations like this, I'm sure, with other bands, but the true question here is, would you still follow these bands after such accusations, especially after they are confirmed in court? Would you throw away or sell your merch you already own of such a band? Would you buy any of their merch after such events? These are the questions I have made throughout the years knowing of these situations, and the answer is not an easy one, or maybe it is for some. Now, my general approach here has always been to separate the artist and the music from the individual. I remember in this regard reading an interview some time ago of a musician. I can't remember who he was now, but a specific phrase remained stuck in my mind at the time. And he said, once the music is released, it is not yours anymore. It is not part of the musician's hold anymore. It is out there. Every listener will process it, will understand it in his own personal way. And I actually very much agree with this statement. Therefore, the music transcends the musician who created that piece, and that is why I find it relatively easy to separate the music from the musicians. But I have read a number of times that this is not easy for some, and I totally accept that. On the other hand, I have stopped listening to a particular band which I really loved and loved everything they had released, just because the leader of that band mocked a musician from another band in a very distasteful way. This other musician was actually a good friend of mine at the time, and he was passing from a difficult time health-wise. Eventually my friend passed away, and even on the day of his death the other guy found the time to post sarcastic comments about him and about what had happened. On the day of the incident I mentioned before, I was personally present, and I remember leaving the venue and selling later on everything from that band I had, and never listened to a note from their music ever again. In this case, when the incident kind of hit close to home, I reacted differently, and this is one of the reasons why this subject pops up in my mind quite often, because I feel I'm treating the issues differently according to the circumstances. That is why in the beginning I said that my approach to this subject has changed throughout the time and throughout the years, and it is not something that will remain like this forever. It might change, it might stay as it is. I really have no idea. Now, there are also somewhat similar instances. I see this coming up on the internet when the lyrics of said band go against your own beliefs. In these situations, for me, the decision is somewhat easier. I understand that if I enjoy a band with pro-fascist or pro-Nazi lyric, it doesn't mean that I agree with them, but It just means that I enjoy the music just as much as if I listen to satanic lyrics. Just that doesn't make me a Satanist. Obviously, some of our ideologies are more dangerous than others, and ideally they are not glorified, but unfortunately music, like many other artistic spheres, is a representation of society, which is good and it's bad. And I don't believe in censorship at all, because that could be really a double-edged sword. I firmly believe the ideological background should not be part of the music world. Having said that, I don't think I actually follow any national socialist bands, since most of them are black metal bands, and I don't follow black metal as much as other subgenres of heavy metal, although this reasoning would even apply with the subgenres I follow more avidly. Another thing I wanted to point out in this video, which is very intrinsic to the heavy metal subculture, especially the underground scene, is that which is referred to often as rockstar attitude. Let's just say that in mainstream culture, bands are almost encouraged to have that big persona. They seem so far away from us mere mortals. Fans of these musicians tend to kind of glorify this attitude and distance between artist and fan. In metal, this kind of attitude by bands is very much frowned upon. We believe that the music is from the fans to the fans, that there is no barrier between artist and fan, that they shouldn't act as they are much more important than the rest of the bands, or as they are untouchables. I know metalheads who outright stopped listening to bands who refused to sign an LP or take a photo together. How would you react if something like this happened to you? I remember once I attended an underground fest, and one of the bands had security guards with them while they walked around the venue. It was a strange thing to see, and it really left a sour taste. I'm so used to meeting band members around the area, even big bands in the underground scene, having a chat and having a beer with them, and I felt this was very odd. Mind you, I didn't stop listening to this particular band, but it somewhat remained ingrained in my mind, this situation. Therefore, in heavy metal, you can gather so much respect as a musician just by being one of the fans, and easily lose everything, however big your legacy is, with that kind of rockstar attitude. Therefore, in conclusion, and as a general perspective to what I have just said, I tend to keep on following the bands who have been accused and or found guilty of certain crimes, albeit still in the back of my mind there is still the thought of them having done a serious crime, so I really can't get that off my mind. But when the situation becomes personal, then that's a different story, and in those situations I tend to take a very active approach. Same can be said to the rockstar attitude situation. I can renounce a favorite band of mine if I get to know, see or experience that kind of attitude from them. So let me know what you think of the issues I raised here. I am expecting a wide variety of approaches, as in some situations there isn't that clear-cut line. As I said, it depends a lot on the personality of each one of us. Anyways, before I close, a gentle reminder to subscribe, click on the bell so that you are notified when we post a new video, like, share this video on social media as well. Remember to use those affiliate links in the description every time you use those links to buy not necessarily the product linked. We get a small commission at no extra expense for you. Basically, there is nothing more to add. For me, stay safe and metal on. Cheers.